I'm installing the most notorious operating system out there, Arch Linux. So Arch Linux is infamous among Linux users as being a headache to use. Oh, this is frustrating. I have to redo everything. Why? It's so frustrating. I mean, it doesn't even come with software that you need to connect to the internet. That's how bare bones Arch is. There's even a whole meme world out there of I use Arch, by the way, which in the world of Linux users is an actual brag that you can have, which should tell you something about how hard it is to use Arch. But my question then is, how hard is it actually? Like, how hard is it to use it? How long does it take to install it for someone with almost no experience? And how hard is it to get to the point where it's actually usable? So in this video, I'm going to answer those questions by attempting to install Arch Linux myself. And I'm doing this so you don't have to. You can watch me do it and you can get a feel for how hard it actually is. And then you can decide whether you want to do it or not. And as an added bonus, you get to see me suffer, which I know some of you really like, because I know some of you
just want to watch the world burn.
Alright, so I've got this old Dell, which is like, I think it's a 2020 Dell XPS 15. I think some sort of Linux distro is already on it, but today we're gonna try to install Arch Linux and see how hard it is. I've got my little trusty USB stick, which already has some Linux distros on it. But we're gonna, first of all, just have to find some sort of Arch Linux, download it onto this, and then get started, I guess. I hope, I'm not sure if this will take like all day or if it's gonna take the entire week, so we'll see. First of all, let's just start this old laptop up and see what we have on it, because we're gonna have to clean it or clear it, I guess, of whatever is already on it. Okay, so I remember now that this is a laptop that I used to install Garuda Linux when that came out. I completely forgot about that, but I don't know if this is like a full partition or if it's just part of the partition for the computer or what the go is. So we're gonna log in. Okay, so I have to remind myself just how to get into BIOS, because I don't know what the partitions are looking like. So I'm gonna Google how to get into BIOS on the Dell XPS 15. All right, so it seems like we have quite a few distros on here, but we're gonna delete the Ubuntu distro. So I'm just gonna delete that. Now I think all we have to do is just create a bootable USD ISO or disk image of Arch, then we can get started. Okay, so it turns out I was trying to burn the signature file onto the USB drive, which is why it wasn't working, because I was like, why is literally the first thing that I'm trying to do not working? But it was, of course, my mistake. So now we have the ISO file here, which we can run the command again and get rid of the sig thing. No such file or directory. This is typical. Arch Linux, and then version is what I've copied because I've copied the command, but that's not what the actual file is named. And then it's a dash, yeah, okay. Resource busy. Remove it. It's actually kind of warm, so I'm not sure what's going on. Connect it back and then run the command straight away. Resource busy. Okay. So ChatGPT said that sometimes you can remove the R from this disk thing and that will stop using the raw disk and it will just use the actual disk the way that it is. I'm not really sure what the raw thing stands for, but it still says fucking busy. All right, I'm gonna probably have to look for a different USB because I think there's something wrong with the actual USB in this case. Okay, so I'm also at my parents' house, so I don't know if they even have any spare USBs, but I know that we have this cupboard, and there might be. There's actually an unopened USB, which I know they don't use this stuff, so I could probably just steal this. I'm gonna try this one. Okay, so let's see what is on this USB. Okay, so this is a little bit embarrassing, but it's also kind of funny. So now, what happens if we do that? Resource busy, why? Okay, that's it for doing the terminal thing. We're gonna just try to create a bootable USB using some sort of other way, because that does not seem to be working at all. I don't know, it doesn't really feel like it bodes well, the fact that like the first thing doesn't seem to work, like just creating the bootable USB. The fact that I'm running into an error already doesn't give me a lot of hope. Okay, so now we have the USB booted, or the USB drive, I guess. That's a bootable USB. I was using Balena Etcher, which is something that I've used before. Not sure if maybe there's something about Arch Linux that doesn't allow you to use something like that, but I hope, or I think it still will allow me to use it. So we're just gonna restart the computer and get started. So the USB drive worked, which is good. Now we just need to get started on the actual installation process, which is literally everything. Like looking through this setup guide here, we will have to set up the console and the keyboard layout and the font of the OS. We have to verify the boot mode, we have to connect to the internet, we have to update the system clock. Okay, we have to mount the file systems. And then we have the installation. I'm not really sure what kind of system we'll have after we've done those things. Let's just get started and we'll see where we end up. Keyboard works. All right, so it's been about an hour now, and we're getting to the point where we're at the installation part of the Arch Wiki. So we've just reached this point.
If we could see how the wrong genes were being relentlessly transcribed, if we could see how this person's genome and entanglement with other people and ideas and events throughout life had sculpted the microstructure of his brain,
missing something here, but when we get to the localization thing, it tells us to edit the local.gen thing and uncomment a line, this one. But first we have to create the things, which we do here. And then we have this thing where it says create the local.conf file and set the language variable. Well, the problem is if we go to create, it says here that, oh, okay, well, what you can do is you can use nano to create something, or you basically need to use a text editor. The problem is we don't have a text editor. When I run nano command in my command line, we get this. Nano command not found. So it seems like we need to install some sort of text editor here, because right now I need to create the keyboard mapping thing, and then we need to create some other file that doesn't exist. I don't know. I don't quite understand the documentation here, because it feels like they're skipping the part where it's like you can install stuff. So, because we don't have a text editor, I don't think. At least we don't have Nano, we don't have Vim, which means that maybe there's some other text editor, but when I press the links in the Arch wiki, it just says use Nano as a text editor as an example, which makes me think that they might have skipped the part where you install. I don't even know if we can install stuff. I don't know if we have some sort of like package manager yet. Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure that out first. Bloatware. So one of the main selling points for Arch Linux is that it comes with 0 bloatware. As you can tell, we don't even get a text editor in the base Arch Linux system. We have to install that ourselves. And as I'm finding out, Arch really does take this to the extreme. It doesn't even come with the sudo command. Like, you have to install the sudo command. So yeah, you can probably tell where this is going. Okay, so it seems like we do have a package manager, and it's called Pacman. And we can use that to install Vim. All right, now we're actually really close. Now the final thing is just to create the password, it seems, and then we can reboot the computer and it should have Arch Linux installed. Now, we still don't have any sort of mouse or desktop or anything like that, so all that will have to be installed as well. But the base Arch Linux thing is installed, I think. All right, it seems like I have to plug in the bootable USB for some reason, because it says that there's no bootable thing. I don't know what's happened, but I feel like something's went wrong, because according to the installation guide, I was just supposed to reboot the computer and we should have Arch Linux installed, but not. It's been 4 hours and 30 minutes. Not the craziest amount of time, but just, it's been 4 hours and 30 minutes. And everything, literally for nothing. It's like the last 4 hours didn't count. I have to redo everything. And I didn't even get a graphical user interface. Like, I didn't get a desktop, I didn't get the mouse to work, I didn't get any of that done. And I followed the installation guide to a T. I even used ChatGPT to help me with the things I didn't understand, and nothing. So yeah, day one just felt like a pretty big defeat, and realizing that I'm gonna have to redo every single thing that I did today tomorrow again, which wasn't fun. Okay, so this is day 2 and we're gonna have to just restart from the very beginning. Again, setting the keys, connecting to the internet, doing all of that stuff. I'm just gonna have to redo it. See, I don't know what the problem was yesterday. The only thing I could think of is that I unmounted the partition that I created, which I think I did. I'm not even sure, because it said in the guide that you're supposed to go into the /MNT mount or the whatever that is. But then at the end it says that you can unmount that partition, which doesn't really make sense, I don't think. But it's just all of this stuff I just have to preface with, I'm not saying the guide is wrong, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have looked at that guide and used that guide, so it's probably not the guide, it's probably me doing something wrong. But it's frustrating because it seems like the guide is wrong, which I know cannot be possible. But yeah, we're gonna have to start over from scratch. Okay, so that was a command that I skipped yesterday. It seemed like it did something, but there was a lot of warnings about modules that might be missing. It seems like some things were actually saved from yesterday, like the vconsole.conf file with the language. When I opened that up with Vim, it already had a line in it, so it might be that I actually did unmount the thing or didn't mount the right drive, because since I created 2 partitions, one swap and one for the actual Linux distro, it might have been that I mounted the swap partition yesterday. That meant that it didn't work, I don't know. It's actually quite difficult. I don't fully understand because I'm not that versed in the space of Linux. I've heard the things and I've used the things, but I don't actually understand them, if that makes sense. Half the things here, I don't know what I'm doing. I today mounted the largest partition, so not the swap, but the ext64. Don't ask me. That might be the thing that I did that hopefully makes this work. Still don't know if it will work, but that might be one of the things. And then running this command that I ran right now, which is the make mk intcp or whatever, because that seemed to do something, and I skipped that yesterday. But now I guess we just need to set the password again, which might already be set. So I'm going to try to look if there's a way to just check if the password is set. Alright, I don't quite understand. I followed everything in the instructions here, but for some reason, when it comes to Linux, my experience has been this. You follow everything, and then for some reason it doesn't work because you have a specific, I don't know, motherboard or something that is just not compatible with the exact instructions that you're following, so it ends up not working. And now there's no bootable devices found, so I don't know. I don't know what this is about, to be honest. I have no idea how this didn't work. It's so frustrating. How could it be this difficult? Everything seems to work, like there's no real errors when I run the things. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to eat breakfast and then come back to it and do it again. Okay, so what's actually a little bit funny is that yesterday, as I was like going through this and installing it and getting close to the end of the installation guide, I started thinking like, how am I gonna make this interesting? Like, how is this gonna be interesting to watch? Because I just followed this installation guide and everything just worked. There was no problems. So I felt like if there's no struggle with it, then the video kind of falls flat a little bit. How wrong I was. Okay, so it seems like we have one option. It might be that we need to install grub for UEFI systems. When I get into the BIOS configuration and I go to the boot configuration, I can see the boot order and all that stuff. It does say boot mode is UEFI only, which I know that I made a decision somewhere along the installation process where I asked ChatGPT to help me figure out, do I have an EFI system or do I have a UEFI system? And from what ChatGPT told me on the command that I ran on the computer, it seemed like I have an EFI system, but I don't know what it means. Like maybe I should ask ChatGPT this actually. Okay, so it seems like I've not created enough partitions. Seems to be the problem, I think. So I need a partition for the EFI thing, whatever that is. I need a swap partition as well, and then I need the main partition, which is for the actual OS, I think. So I need to redo the partitions, I think, and then reinstall everything on the partitions, and then we should be good to go, I think. All right, so now I've installed Grub and created 3 partitions, 1 EFI, 1 swap, and 1 main partition. Then I installed Grub in the CH root, or the root user, or the actual environment, I guess. And then I created some sort of bootloader thing with Grub. I don't know what it was, but ChatGPT helped me. Now we're going to restart the computer and see if this worked. All right, we have Arch Linux installed on the computer. I didn't really understand how to log in, and I was like, fuck, did I somehow create a user that I don't remember? By chance, I was just like, maybe I should try root. So I tried root, and that worked, and now we're in. But we have nothing. We literally have a terminal. That's all that we have. So now, this is the thing, I guess, with Arch Linux that people like. The fact that you get to choose exactly what you put onto your computer. You can install everything yourself. We don't even have a mouse at this point, and this is day 2 of trying to get this to work. We have no graphical user interface. We have nothing. So I'm going to try to get some sort of desk environment, maybe. If that's not too difficult, we'll see. I'm tempted to go with XFCE, but I'm not sure if it's like a proper... I know I've used that before for some Ubuntu version that I was using. We're going to try this and we're going to see if it works. I just don't want to spend too long just on getting a desktop environment working. Especially seeing since we've spent a good 8-9 hours, something like that, in total so far. All right, so it seems like we're not connected to the internet, which means that we can't download any packages or anything. And ChatGPT's help right now is basically, help me, I can't connect to the internet. ChatGPT responds, use these commands, and those commands are not installed on the computer, so I can't use the commands. And these are like basic commands, like IWCTL, I think that's like the internet thing, and then IW is also a command that you can run. None of it is installed, and I think in every other Linux distro that would be part of like the core functionality or core features, but this is Arch and you have to do everything yourself. So I'm gonna try connecting an Ethernet cable instead and see if we can bypass the internet thing. But I don't even know, like I don't know if it's enough to connect an Ethernet cable and then we have internet, or even a wired connection needs some sort of configuration, which cannot be done unless we can download something. I don't know. Because the other alternatives that ChatGPT listed out as options were not very enticing, I wouldn't say. It was creating another bootable USB and using it on a different laptop, or creating a mirror of this thing and using it. It was just like, fuck, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, so it seems to be as I feared, which is not even connecting an Ethernet cable works. Every command that ChatGPT gives me is for tools that are not installed because it's Arch. If the file is empty or contains incorrect entries, you need to manually set DNS servers. So here's what I've found out now. It turns out that I have to plug in the USB and boot it up again in the install environment, or basically connect to the internet in the install environment. Then I can log into the user, the root user, and then I can start installing lots of things that I need. Because apparently I was probably a little bit too quick with just being like, oh, it's installed, unplug everything, and hopefully it works. That's what we're gonna do. It's 4:30 p.m. right now. We started this day at, I think it was 8 a.m. So yeah, it takes some time, this. We're gonna get back to trying to get this installed. The way to circumvent the problem of not being able to connect to the internet is by rebooting the laptop with the bootable USB drive. And then when you go into the installation environment, the installation stuff already has some packages installed, which allow you to connect to the internet using that part of the thing, whatever it is. Then, once we're connected to the internet using the installation part of the USB, then we can log into the root user, which is the partition that's now installed on the laptop. And then we can start to download stuff because we're now connected to the internet. At least that's how it should work. We'll see. As you can tell, I understand this perfectly. All right, so it turns out that you first have to mount the partitions into the live environment, maybe. And then once you've mounted the partitions, then you can chroot into the environment that you've installed on the laptop. So that's what I've done now. Now we're on the root, and now we can start installing all the packages, which I actually missed that part, of course, obviously, but I missed that part in the installation guide, where they basically said that the base package does not include all tools from the live installation, so installing more packages may be necessary for a full functional base system. We have like CPU packages that we might need, things for managing RAID or LVM. Most importantly, we have stuff for networking, which doesn't work. Like, you can't connect to the internet with just the base Linux package. But I guess that's why some people like Arch, because it has zero bloatware. And when they say zero bloatware, there's literally zero bloatware. You don't have anything. So let's just start installing things. Okay, so now I've installed a ton of packages, and I asked ChatGPT what are the packages it would recommend to install when you just have the base Linux thing. And it gave me a lot of different things, and I was just installing it on autopilot, and then I realized that, well, maybe I don't need to install everything right now. Maybe I just need the base stuff so that I can connect to the internet, because once I can connect to the internet, then I should be able to, fingers crossed, I should be able to install anything that I want. It doesn't really make sense to be installing lots of different things I don't even know if I need, because at a certain point I was installing stuff for just how to use the audio stuff for the computer, which I don't know if that's something that I need right now. Instead of installing like just-in-case software, I'm gonna do or have the approach of just-in-time software. So I'm gonna install software that I need as I need it, not before I need it, in case I might need it in the future. if that makes sense. But yeah, now we're in the system again. I've disconnected the USB. So now we can see if we can connect to the internet, which I hope we can, because then we can start installing the desktop environment and see if we can get that to work. So yeah, let's try to connect to the internet. All right, it seems we're not done yet. If I'm to guess, I would guess that we don't have IWD installed, which means that we need to reboot again, I think. Yeah, we need to reboot again, connect to the internet, mount all the partitions, chroot into the main user, and then install IWD, and then shut down, unplug, restart, and try to connect again. So I'm just gonna do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. All right, here's the moment of truth. Let's see if it works. Oh my God, yes. We have internet connection. Finally. I was literally thinking just then, like, I'm gonna have to reboot the computer with the USB again and try to, I don't know, search for whatever the flaw is gonna be. One of the answers from ChatGPT at this point was like, check the error logs for IWD. And I was like, fuck, I'm not gonna do that. Like, that's such a last resort, just like checking the logs for errors with something. I'm like, it should just be to be able to connect, like, I should just be able to connect to the internet. I don't understand. How could this be so difficult? But now we have internet, which means that we can start installing things without the USB, which is such a relief. Something that I've started doing a little bit more of, or trying a little bit more to do, is to celebrate my victories, because I tend not to do that very much. It might seem like something that's not very important, like this is a tiny little thing, just being able to get the internet to work on this laptop, but I've spent probably 4 hours maybe trying to get it to work. So in that sense, it's actually a little bit of a victory, and it's important, I think, to just stop once you reach one of those milestones. Just stop and like celebrate it in some way. And the way that I'm going to celebrate that today is by just taking like a 10-minute break and having some M&Ms. That's what I'm going to do. All right, let's install the desktop environment. Warning, failed to retrieve some files, failed to commit transaction, failed to retrieve some files. Okay, maybe we need to connect to the internet first. I thought it would automatically connect to the internet, but maybe not. I connected to the internet yesterday, that was the whole thing yesterday. Came back today and logged into the computer, and then didn't really think I would need to connect to the internet, but maybe I do. Let's just try to ping Arch Linux and see if we get a response. Okay, so that's not the issue. We are connected to the internet, because some of the packages returned the error that the URL requested returned the error 404, which is a classic error when something goes wrong with the internet stuff. Yeah, I assumed or hoped that it would be as easy as just connecting to the internet. I was a little bit skeptical because I was able to download some things for the first part of the installation. I don't know what part of the installation didn't work. Like I don't know what this all means, if it's important. It's like sydney.mirror package.build.com. Like I don't know if that's important stuff, because sometimes it will install things, because I just said install everything, which means that some of the things it installed might not be necessary. Maybe I should try running the desktop environment, or however that works. According to ChatGPT, the message obviously means that the package mirrors were either out of date or not currently available. And this could happen if the specific mirrors are out of date or unavailable. Makes sense. However, you do not necessarily need to worry if only a few packages are missing, as long as the core XFC for interface thing was installed successfully. So what we can do is we can check if XFC is installed by verifying the presence of the XFC components. So we can run this command, qsxfc4. And that should return some sort of answer to us, maybe. All right, it seems like we got the installation to work. Now we need to install a display manager, it seems. Configure the display manager and then start the XFC desktop environment. And then we should have some sort of desktop. Not sure what that means, but we'll see. So let's try it. Okay, so I guess this is Arch Linux with XFC running. Okay, so obviously there's so many things that could be done with this now. I mean, it's Arch Linux has been installed. We have a desktop environment. We have internet. We have a mouse working. We have everything for base Arch Linux. I've lost track of how many hours this has taken. So I did Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, and today is Tuesday. And now it's the first time that I have a desktop environment on my laptop. I mean, it's taken 4 days. I remember on Wednesday, I was just thinking like, I mean, this is too easy. I was following the tutorial, installing everything. I wasn't getting any errors. I just followed all the steps and everything just worked. Well, boy, how wrong I was, because this, I mean, that's day 4 of doing this. And that's the first time that I have a desktop that I can use. So yeah, it was harder than I thought it was going to be. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I think now maybe I could say the words. I use Arch, by the way.